Welcome to the Hoop Collective podcast. We talk about the NBA. And joining us from the Bay Area here in this holiday season, stayed on the West Coast, is Tim Bontemps.
Hello, everybody.
Joining us back at home in Dallas, we've ejected him from the West Coast. It's Ben MacMahon.
Howdy, partners. It is good to be home. Good to see you guys in LA, but glad to get rid of you.
I feel the same way. I couldn't agree more. All right. So we're at the end of the year, and this is where we have our semi-annual. We don't do this every year. We've done it a few times. Bontemps likes to make fun of the way I say Ballon d'Or, which is
because you say balloon door repeatedly, which
as a joke, buddy.
I don't know if it's a joke. It's called a joke later.
We try to, we try to bring more of an international flair when we can on this pod. But the Ballon d'Or it's French for golden ball or gold ball, I believe. And it's the trophy that's been given out for decades to the player of the year in international soccer. And the reason it's different than the MVP is that it takes into account the full calendar year, which passes over multiple seasons and multiple competitions. In soccer, they have multiple competitions. We've given this out in 3 times in the past. The 3 previous winners, thanks to Jackson Nagello, our fine producer's research, because I certainly don't remember, is Kevin Durant, which I believe was the year that he was so awesome in the Tokyo Olympics, Steph Curry, and Nikola Jokic, who is terrific in all competitions. So this is, to really focus on who was deserving of this award for their play in the entire year of 2024, during which we had an Olympics, among other international competitions and other non-direct NBA competitions. So the way this works is we're going to nominate people, and then at the end, we're going to vote. And I'm going to go first. So how about that? How about you like that?
Okay. Have at it. By the way, I do think this has become an annual thing. We just haven't been doing it that long.
Well, if it's the 4th year, then that's not bad. That's not bad for this podcast has been around a long time now. This podcast is in its second decade. Not that it, has gone for 20 years, but we did it in the teens and we're doing it in the 20s.
In various different forms, yes.
It's had several different names.
Correct.
Shout out to Jackie Mack. It's been going on so long. One of our hosts retired, for crying out loud. So anyway, my first nomination is going to be the Greek freak Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is, last year he had an upsetting end to the season because he got injured and was unable to play in that Bucks first round playoff series, and they got beat and it was all forgotten. But what actually happened during the regular season was he averaged 30 points a game. He shot 61% from the field, which was the highest he'd ever shot in a season. Right now in this season, but also this calendar year, he's shooting slightly higher than that. So he's had a 60% 2024. He averaged 11.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists, a little bit more than 1 steal and a little bit more than 1 block. Those were right there near his career averages. He's had a little bit better than that when he had his MVP years, but it was comparable to his MVP seasons. He finished 4th in the MVP last year, made the first team All-NBA. And then I just want to point out what he was able to accomplish over the summer, despite coming off of that knee injury where we weren't really sure that he was going to be able to play for the Greek national team. The Greeks hadn't qualified and for the Olympics. And so they had to go through a qualifying tournament, which I will say they got to play at home in Greece, which was a key factor in this. But still, they had to get through a tournament, and they ended up getting, in my view, the hardest draw because they had to play Slovenia and Luka. That was the biggest game of the entire pre-Olympic tournament. The Olympic qualifying tournament was Slovenia against Greece, and the Greeks won the game and got the coveted spot, kept Luka, who was, I think, even if the Slovenians had qualified as a qualifier, I think would have been a contender to win a medal.
Luka was fumes at that point after the finals run, but yes.
Well, in 2021, when they played in Tokyo, the Slovenians also qualified, were a qualifier and reached the bronze medal game. They lost to the Australians, but my point is that was a challenging run. He got them through into the Olympics. Then once the Greeks got into the Olympics, they drew into the group of death, where they were in the same pool as Canada, Spain, and Australia. And that's really an unfair pool because the Canadians were ranked too low relative to their talent. Spain was sort of a legacy team, and Australia was a defending medalist. So their chances of getting out of the group phase were very long. They were not considered a favorite at all. And Giannis came in knowing that, and he was awesome. In the game against Canada, I think he had 33 points. They lost, but he absolutely was amazing. Then when they played Spain, he had 36 points and 11 rebounds in that game. And then in the game against Australia, which was one of the defining games of the group phase, a game that they won, he had, I believe it was 26 points, 7 rebounds and 6 assists. They won the game and were able to qualify. And he made a circuit around the entire court in the Pierre Mauroy, or the Stade Pierre Mauroy in Lille.
Windy with some pronunciation.
Yeah. And
by the way, are you going to help us out with Olympic stats? Do we have to do our own research? You got all these.
I'll get them for you. I'll get them for you.
Right, good. Thank you.
So
shouldn't be that hard to find, though, pal.
Giannis said, that achievement of getting out of that group phase was one of the, that. And by the way, I didn't point out he was the flag bearer for the Greeks going down the river, and they had traditionally the Greeks have the first. They come in first in the Olympics, so the first boat down the Seine was Giannis holding the Greek flag in the driving rain in Paris in July.
How long had it been since Greece had been in the men's Olympic basketball field? I know Spadoulis was awesome, so I assume it was during his run.
Great question. I don't have it at my fingertips. They certainly were not in Tokyo. They didn't qualify.
Our Olympic stats guy. Was it Giannis's first?
Yes, it was Giannis's first Olympics. And so, they went 1 and 2 in the group phase, but because he played so well, against those tough competitions, they kept the points close. And when they got the upset over Australia, they qualified, and they did lose to Germany in the first knockout stage. Giannis had 22 points in that game, but just getting there was a great accomplishment. And he was, he didn't make the all-tournament team, but he would have. I mean, he was one of the 5 best players. So a tremendous Olympics. It may not be remembered as such because they didn't medal, but I'm telling you, even getting him there and then the way he played there was spectacular.
2008, by the way, was the last time Greece was in the Olympics. Thank you to Rafa. Jackson's probably over there taking a nap right now while Rafa's doing all the heavy lifting.
Jackson's ready for his end-of-year vacation. And then, by the way, like Giannis added another trophy. We talked this last pod about his play in the NBA Cup. He is leading the league in scoring this year at almost 33 points a game, still averaging 11.5 rebounds, 6 assists. I believe in the Bontemps poll, he was 3rd in MVP.
Only player ever to qualify for the Olympics and win the NBA Cup in the same season.
This is straight facts. So he added I think they give you like a banner to carry when you qualify for the Olympics. They give you like a golden ticket. So he got that banner. He got the Greek flag that he held during the ceremony, and the NBA Cup MVP trophy, which I don't think has been named.
How has it not been named? All the rest of them are named. That's interesting.
They've got to name something for LeBron. Is
I
that
was
big
going to
enough?
say they might as well. He won the first.
Is that big enough for LeBron? I don't know. So therefore, I put forward for the Ballon d'Or. I put forward Giannis Antetokounmpo. All right, MacMahon.
Okay. Well, we're going to get 2 nominations each, right? Is that the way we're doing this?
Sure. Unless we just decide that's enough and stop.
Okay. Well, which Balkan do you want me to go with first?
That's up to you. You put forth your first nominee.
Do your job, bro.
Oh, wow, Bontemps, you are. I mean, I know it's early on the West Coast, but you are especially grumpy. Do we need?
We just listened to a 12-minute soliloquy on Giannis. Where we walk through every day of the calendar year.
Now we're whining that the host of the podcast actually gets to talk uninterrupted.
Do you dispute anything that I said? Do you want to come in and debate?
I didn't know. I mean, you said a bunch of facts. I'm not arguing what you said. I don't know if I would have led off for the 12-minute discussion about Giannis personally, but
here,
it's okay.
Bontemps wants to talk. Here, you go.
Oh, go ahead. I'm waiting for you to say who you're going to nominate.
Okay, my God. I'll go with Joker. Real controversial pick. Dude won the MVP, right? Take Serbia to the bronze in the Olympics. And set a NBA record for the most hammered somebody got in celebrating a bronze medal afterwards, which is fun. But, you can help me with his Olympic stats. We had some unbelievable.
18.8 points, 10.7 rebounds, 8.7 assists.
Damn near beat Team USA.
By the way, the first player ever to lead the Olympic tournament in points, rebounds, and assists.
Well, there you go. That's not a bad stat. My other Balkan's got a similar stat when it comes to playoff time. And then, he's the...
By the way, as a reminder to what went down, they won the bronze at like noon.
Yes.
Okay. And then I seriously don't think that I think that the gold medal game might not have started until 9 p.m. in Paris.
And they enjoyed the time in between.
They drank all day. And by the way, this is all on social media. It's not like I'm making an assumption.
Yes.
And in real time was on social media. It wasn't like we saw it 3 days later. We knew they were showing up drunk. So the whole gold medal game has to happen. And then the medal ceremony where they get their bronze medal. So the Serbians are absolutely blasted when they stumble out to get their medal. And, frankly, the Americans were happy, but they were just very relieved. The French were devastated because they had a gold medal within their sights and lost. They were getting their gold medals, but they had just lost and they were upset. The Serbians were having the best time. The Serbians, maybe you can't say they won the night, but the Serbians were having the best time at the end of the night.
They won the afternoon, that's for sure.
They certainly did. They certainly did.
Okay, and then he's the BS poll, the first BS poll leader. By the way, is there a BS poll curse because Joker #1 in the poll and then they lose to the freaking Portland Trailblazers? And I mean, look, Russ got torched, but Joker, I don't know, man. When the guy drives for a game-winning layup in the final seconds, you might want to scoot over.
Just so you know, when this pod
attempt
runs,
to move,
attempt to move, you raise your arms up.
Well, just so you know, this pod is running just before Christmas, and we're recording this on Friday. Jokic could have a quadruple double over the weekend.
But they still would have lost to the Portland Trailblazers.
Okay.
Anyway,
fair one to point out, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was a
rather rough moment.
But obviously the guy is, he just rolls out of bed and puts up absolutely ridiculous numbers. They did, I would say, surprisingly get knocked out in the second round in a wild series that was full of blowouts, and then they in both directions, and then they blew a 3-2 lead, and they blew I forgot what the lead was in the final game in Game 7.
Well,
up 20 in that game, were they not?
I'm sure that the Nuggets fans don't feel this way, but it is kind of a little bit underplayed how bad of a moment that was, that they blew a huge Game 7 lead on their home court.
Yes.
And I don't know, maybe the Celtics steamroll anyway, because they steamrolled the East. They steamrolled the East playoffs and they won in the finals relatively easily.
They lost
The-
both games to Denver, and they struggled with Jokic, and would have struggled with Jokic, obviously, in the finals if they played him.
Well, and I can tell you
I
this.
mean, real talk, the Nuggets going down their leg in that series
Yes.
probably robbed us of what could have been a great finals.
Well, and listen, I'm not gonna. People in Dallas get mad at me enough without assuming that the Nuggets beat the Mavericks. It would have been a more competitive series than the Mavericks making pretty quick work of the Timberwolves, which was a series of competitive games that only lasted 5 games.
It is fair to point out that one of the reasons why the Mavericks made short work of the Wolves was that the Wolves were completely gassed from the conference finals, and that the Nuggets might have shown up gassed from the same conference finals, and it could have been a similar result. The Mavericks were rewarded for taking care of the Thunder in the fashion that they did by catching a more fatigued team. That's absolutely true.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But again, when we're talking about Joker's case, MVP, bronze, BS MVP poll leader, unbelievable numbers. The guy's pretty good about it. And like just, widely recognized as just the best player in basketball right now.
I would agree.
Can we snake draft this?
Oh,
Let's
no.
snake draft this. We're snake drafting a baby.
No.
Bontemps?
I don't. I need a little more time on my second pick.
Wow.
So
Bontemps. I thought you were like
well,
a
no,
guy.
I'm doing some math on the fly that I want to lay out for my second pick. So, this is a really interesting year for this award because it's very difficult to really come up with an obvious choice to be at the top of the ballot because everybody's resume for this is pretty flawed. Giannis, obviously.
Boy, just wet blanketing it right through the Christmas season.
Well, but you go back to
Tinkle Little Star.
Listen,
Here we
you
go.
go back to last year, and there was one thing to win, right? The MVP or the NBA title, and
there was a World Cup.
There was an NBA Cup. There was an NBA Cup. There was a gold medal.
The Warriors almost gave Dennis Schroeder like a tribute by losing by 71 his New Jersey number. They came close.
That was rough. Well,
that is a great line. But again, there are games being played between this podcast and when this is.
I don't care. I get my jokes off and they're timely right now. Oh my God.
Talk about who's not in a bad mood today. There's just everybody's got dings in their resume across the board. So I'm struggling to pick a specific person. I will say, since they won the title and were the best team and look like they're the favorites to win again, I will say Jayson Tatum as a nominee. But again, like Jayson Tatum also didn't play in the Olympics and didn't win Finals MVP.
Time out.
What? Wendy's sensitive topic here.
Time out.
Steve Kerr's defense attorney. Here he comes.
He did play in the Olympics in all but 2 games.
I understand. He was a bit player on the team, but I'm going to give him credit for being the guy that was the best player on the best team over the course of this calendar year. And although he barely lost in votes in the conference finals and finals for MVP.
All right. I'm not going to. I got to stop.
Straight minutes and Bontemps.
You're right. I did. But this. Right, what kind of nomination is this?
Wendy, this is just rude.
Well, this is the point. I mean,
Jayson Tatum
to be nicer to Bontemps, and here you are. Just
Jayson Tatum got 11 minutes in the gold medal game, the most important game that was played throughout the summer, the most important game that was played in international basketball.
What was the narrative coming out of the Olympics? It was that Jayson Tatum was benched for 2 of the games.
Okay,
that was my point.
I'm just saying. Okay, Tatum played 11 minutes in the gold medal game.
Okay.
He was afforded 11 minutes. What did he do in those 11 minutes? Did he score 36 points? Did he get 9 steals? Did he throw down big dunks?
Right now? What is happening right now?
Steve Kerr's defense attorney.
He played 11 minutes.
I'm not arguing. There was no argument about any of what things that happened in the Olympics.
Wendy
played 11.
The most powerful lawyers in the world, and
he played 11 minutes. He went 1 of 3. He had 2 points, 3 rebounds, and no assists. He did play in the gold medal game, and it wasn't like he was so awesome that he made the whole coaching staff look like fools for not playing him against Serbia. but not playing in the Olympics is not accurate.
Oh
I
my
can't
God.
believe his cousin Ty Lue didn't stick up for him more. By the way, I can't believe it took me this long to find out they were cousins. Go on.
Wasn't Tatum cousins like with Larry Hughes as well?
If not cousins, at least extremely close.
I believe their fathers are not their fathers. I believe his father played either around the same time at St. Louis with Larry Hughes or something of that nature.
Anyway,
right.
we're off track.
Yeah.
Bontemps trying to nominate a guy, and Wendy's talking about how bad he sucked in the Olympics. My God. So rude.
No, well, you can say a lot of things about the Olympics, but you can't say he didn't play. He averaged 5 points, 5 rebounds, and 1.5 assists.
What are we doing? What are we doing? The entire summer about the Olympics was the narrative of whether Jayson Tatum should or should not have been benched in games. That was all I was trying to say. We've now spent 5 minutes talking about it for no reason at all.
The man just won his first NBA championship, got the biggest contract in NBA history.
Right.
And then was a pine rider in the Olympics. And that was a massive narrative in the Olympics, as you know, having to play defense for Steve Kerr the entire summer.
And yes, my point
somebody has to stand up for being objective.
Listen, you and that defensive slide, baby. I'm impressed. Can't play.
The narrative of Jayson Tatum's entire year
was in the Olympics. You can play 17 in the NBA though, for at least a month, and then things kind of went haywire.
Do you want to talk more about what happened in August that we're now relitigating for absolutely no reason at 8 o'clock in the morning Pacific time? I don't understand what we're doing right now. This is insane.
Bontemps is feisty.
I am feisty now because this is ridiculous. The narrative of Jayson Tatum's year was he didn't win conference finals MVP, he didn't win finals MVP, and he didn't play in 2 games in the Olympics, which is what I was saying. But yes, let's litigate that again. We all agreed on it this summer. What the hell are we doing? By the way, what I was going to say was that has overshadowed the fact that he was clearly the best player on what was the absolute dominant team in the league last year, was the guy who led them as their best player to their first championship in almost 20 years, and has come right back, is playing better this year, and the team is rolling along and is the favorite to win the title again next year. And he did win a second gold medal. And, he made his, I think, 3rd consecutive All-NBA first team. So that's the argument for Jayson Tatum. Yeah.
Did you guys exchange any hugs during your time together in LA?
Did.
Hey, listen.
It was good to see Brian. I just don't know why we're relitigating the Tatum not playing in the Olympics story, which is a gigantic story.
Because you say he didn't play in the Olympics, which he did.
Oh my God!
The thing I had.
Let me look up how many the guy played on the team. I think he might have been 9 to 10 on the team.
This is a Disney podcast.
What are we doing?
Gosh darn! Replace that with gosh darn. Do some work.
I'm just saying, when he did play, he didn't play well. The idea that he didn't play.
It's a ridiculous. It's
Jackson's redeemed himself.
All right. Anyway,
is Tatum's godfather.
Anyway, I was, really on this thing that last year was going to be the summer of Tatum, and in a lot of ways it was, because as Bontemps said, he won the finals. Got that.
Now we know why he's going through and picking out every single minute that Tatum was on the court. MacMahon.
Anyway, he won the finals. He won the gold medal. He got the biggest contract in history.
That is what we all said already.
Very good.
Do we want to add up his minutes again?
Bontemps is feisty.
My only point is that the concept that he didn't play isn't accurate. Is that
I'm glad we've made that extraordinarily clear.
He didn't play much because he didn't play well. If he had literally never played, then that would have been controversial.
I don't think Tatum's going to get Wendy's vote.
No one argued that it was controversial ever. So
everybody thinks it's controversial. In the finals, he averaged 22 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists and a steal. His stats were awesome in the finals.
Well, but he didn't shoot it well.
That's true.
And
he shot 39%
jumper all summer, or all late spring and summer.
That's right. But, in a classic moment, when they announced, we weren't 100% sure who was going to win the finals MVP. They're up there. They're celebrating. This is the supreme moment for every single one of these guys. They're having this incredible moment. They're home. They're doing it in front of their fans. It's this moment for their lifetime. And Adam Silver, right? I think it was Adam Silver who announced it. He announces Jaylen Brown is the Bill Russell Trophy winner. And we all saw the look on Jayson's face. He was surprised. And I'm saying, I get it. His stats were very strong. Jaylen Brown's stats were 21 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He shot the ball better, but not great. He shot 24% on threes. Tatum shot 26% on threes. It wasn't like Jaylen Brown was hitting every shot. But I did, like Bontemps, who did you vote for?
I voted
You
for
had a
Jaylen
vote.
Brown.
Right. And I remember thinking that was the right vote. But I'm just saying, like, I think based on the play, no one really talks about whether it's controversial that Jaylen Brown won the Finals MVP over Jayson Tatum, which I'm not taking the opposite viewpoint there. I'm just saying you could make a strong case for Tatum.
I thought you could have made a case for Drew
Yeah,
Holiday.
I agree. Well, Holiday didn't finish as strong, but yes, I would say through 3 games, Drew Holiday did have a really strong case. But the controversy of the summer is that he was benched in the Olympics when he didn't really play well at all. And I think the controversy, if anything, would be that maybe he should have won the Finals MVP. Like that's a better if you're gonna cape for Jayson Tatum, the argument to make is that he should have been the Finals MVP, not that he should have gotten 20 minutes against Serbia. That is my point that I'm making.
Ooh, there's some shamrock tattoos spinning with that take.
Well, I don't want to engage Bontemps because he's not in a. We've been down this road before.
We just got derailed for 10 minutes for absolutely no reason. But sure, go ahead.
Well,
make
the whole
another
point
nominee.
of podcasts is to be derailed. That's the purpose of the media.
Well, sure.
I thought the
I
point
talked
was
for 4 seconds, and then you just made the nominee for Tatum. So now nominate a third player.
Oh, we're snake drafting. Woo! Let's go.
Go ahead.
That's not a snake draft. I'm saying to
No,
Brian to nominate another player.
Oh, I thought you were gonna go.
Oh, I'm passing the baton
No.
to you.
No, you're not. No,
Well,
you're
I just
not.
think it's more appropriate at this point to nominate the guy. First off, I thought I was going to nominate Tatum. That's one thing. The second thing is,
So you got to think for a little bit, and so you're delaying here.
yeah,
I'll
but
nominate.
also I think it's appropriate to go to your guy.
Okay, we'll nominate Luka. We'll nominate Luka. We'll nominate the guy who won the first ever Pravi MVP. And
Yes.
if we're talking about
What is that trophy? What is the Pravi MVP? Is it a Miller Lite or whatever? And that's not. He wouldn't drink
Listen,
Miller Lite.
I'm going to give Luka credit. He drinks better beer than Miller Lite. Oh, wait, Miller Lite a sponsor? I don't know. The man that he he has good beer taste and varied beer taste from what I can tell. Like the beer he had in after clinching the Western Conference Finals
Well, I thought that was a Miller Lite. What was it? A Bud Light? What?
Bolton Blonde. It was a Minnesota brew.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
I know the man likes a good Mexican lager, which I'm right there with him. He'll dip into the IPAs. He's versatile. But look, if we're talking about just the 2024 part of last season, he essentially averaged a 34-point triple-double. It was like 9.9 rebounds, but I mean, and obviously the Mavericks took off and post-trade deadline finished the season on that on that 16-2 kick where they morphed in the #1 defense in the league. He was a part of that. He certainly wasn't the reason for that, but he was a part of that. He put up numbers that were unprecedented. And then, speaking of unprecedented numbers, during the playoffs, he became the first guy in NBA history to lead an entire postseason in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. Interestingly, he battled through and endured a pretty nasty shooting slump in the first round that lasted into the second round before kind of snapping out of that. He had some, the moment where he hit the step back over Gobert and talked all those Slovenian words that.
Oh my God, he was having a night in Minneapolis that night. He was feeling himself.
Certainly was.
There was that one, and then there was the final, or the Game 5 closeout in Minnesota, where from the opening to like he just absolutely ripped the heart out of an entire arena in the first quarter of a game. So like his West Finals was absolutely ridiculous. Um, Slovenia did not qualify, as you mentioned, for the Olympics. I forgot to mention the guy was dealing with like a sprained knee for pretty much.
Yeah, we weren't sure. I mean, we knew he was going to play, but we weren't sure what he was going to be able to bring. It wasn't a
Yeah,
stunner
and
that the Greeks won.
yeah, and they also didn't have their second NBA player, Vlatko Cancar. Wait, did he play in that? Maybe
I
he did.
don't believe he did.
He
I
did. He
don't
was
know.
coming off of a knee. Anyways, it wasn't the supporting cast for Slovenia wasn't as good as it
That's
had
true.
been in the past. I think Vlatko played, but was coming off of a knee from the World Cup the year before. But anyways, and so Slovenia didn't have their fastball, didn't qualify for the Olympics. And then, I've talked about by his standards, he got off to a slow start this season, certainly has turned that around here in the last couple of weeks, although he's dealing with his heel contusion now. I'm sure, I would hope by the time this pod comes back, he's back on the floor. But again, Pravi MVP, led the entire postseason in points, rebounds, assists, and steals. Made his first finals run. Actually, yeah, made his first finals run, and that makes him a candidate for the Baller d'Or. Now, we can nitpick some things. We can certainly nitpick uh, the finals. I think Wendy, or were you on the record of saying you weren't impressed with his game three performance? I don't remember.
I've just I've seen him get ejected from elimination games 3 times now.
He
Very
wasn't
important
ejected,
elimination.
disqualified.
Whatever.
It was a bad performance. That game three, unfortunately, was like the worst of Luka on the
Yeah.
biggest, and hey, the guy's an unbelievable talent, um, whose flaws are as obvious as his talent, and his flaws came to the forefront in terms of it was all about whining to the referees and being distracted, and that impacts defense and decision making. And, it was, I think the guy has made progress throughout the course of his career, certainly since Jay Kidd's been in Dallas. But there are times when that stuff comes to the forefront, and that was a terrible time for it to happen.
Yeah, and I think the epitome of the moment was when he fouled out in the
Yep.
game, which the game was moving in the direction of the Mavericks at that point.
Hmm.
They were behind, just to be clear. But, who knows what would have happened. He fouls out, and his first reaction to fouling out is anger at his team's bench.
You better effing challenge that, as he said. And it was just a
Yeah.
terrible foul. It was 25 feet from the hoop, trying to take a charge on Jaylen Brown in the open floor. When you have five fouls, I mean,
Yeah.
it was it was an unfortunate,
Yeah.
awful
And then
performance.
he came back in game 4 and played brilliantly.
Yeah, and again,
And
that
really gave a great effort on defense. He's never going to be a great defensive player, but the brilliance of his game 4 was an indictment of his game 3.
yeah,
That's the thing. Like, and look, he doesn't have, you can have a bad game, but you can't take your team out of the game because you can't control your emotions when you're a player like this. And I have seen him do it over and over again. That lesson that he was supposed to have learned that night, he had already had given to him several times in his career. So
yeah,
that's why I was very frustrated. I was also frustrated that I felt that the Mavericks could have won game 3, and they did win game 4, and we could have had a 2-2 series because
right.
Porzingis had gotten hurt. And so really the finals were ended that night. And what we wanted to see as fans of the NBA was we wanted to see a great series because Luka is a great player, and I wanted to see him go head to head with them. And because of his emotions, he basically took his team out of the series. So
Yeah,
that's what that was.
and
But that I don't think that moment should define his even his playoff run, much less his year.
no, because they're not in the finals without him. Again, it was just like, hey, this is part of the Luca package and the Luca story. I think at some point the guy's going to win an MVP. At some point, I think the guy's going to win a championship, perhaps multiple in both regards. But you know that's you can't ignore the flaws while discussing the greatness.
Well, and that's sort of the theme of the whole year, right? I mean, to go back to before, like everybody you want to nominate for this has something that you can point to and say, well, this didn't go well during the year. Um, the next guy I'm going to nominate, though, other than his team being not very good, might not quite fit that. And that's our favorite podcast topic, Victor Wembanyama. I want to read you guys Victor Wembanyama's stats for the calendar year 2024
Oh, beautiful.
through now in the NBA, which is why I was doing math before and unfortunately nominated Jayson Tatum and derailed the pod for 10 minutes.
We are going to have
Victor is averaging 23.6 points, 10.6 rebounds. What now?
You're taking when you discovered the guy and you're stealing him from him right under his nose.
I don't care. Well, I don't care.
On your part. This is just this is being incendiary. Ooh, there's a word.
That's the biggest word you've ever used on the pod. Now that you've interrupted me 3 more times, I will reread this. He's averaged 23.6 points, 10.6 rebounds, 4.3 assists, 1.2 steals, 3.8 blocks, while shooting almost 50% from the field, 34% from three, 79% from the line in 65 games over the course of the calendar year as of our recording. Won unanimous Rookie of the Year, was the face of the French Olympics, and very nearly, after a fairly disastrous group stage for France, took down Team USA in the gold medal game and showed everybody what the future of basketball could be looking like, assuming, knock on wood, he's able to stay healthy. But for a guy who came into the league with as much hype as anybody in a generation, I would say it's fair to say he's lived up to it and is off to an excellent start this year. Certainly seems headed for the All-Star team in his second season and is off to the races.
And is delivering me a dinner on your dime, buddy. The Spurs are over 500 as we speak.
We will see about that, but certainly they have gotten off to a very nice start in large part because he has been outstanding.
And they had a really nice win Thursday night against the Hawks, where Wembanyama was awesome.
Well, that was also a fascinating Wemby performance because he took over overtime, which overtime happened because DeAndre Hunter dunked on his head and then stood over him and let him know about it.
He didn't like it.
He didn't like it, and he responded.
Yeah.
Well, the crazy thing is him responding allowed them to call double technicals. They should have called no technicals. One of the more ridiculous things in the NBA is this no taunting thing for staring at a guy.
Listen.
And the fact that DeAndre Hunter had one of the craziest dunks I've ever seen, because I saw him driving. So wait a second, where's this going to go? He detonates on his head at the rim. He should be able to do whatever he wants if he dunks on Victor Wembanyama at the rim. Victor Wembanyama should be able to say something to him. It was great.
What's the suggested rule? By the way, who called that tech and how tall were they? What is the suggested?
We're not getting into that.
When a guy has
shorter than Victor
dunk, you can do anything in the next 5 seconds as long as your pants stay on. That's it. We've talked about this before.
I just think getting a technical foul for saying nothing and not reacting in any way other just looking at someone is ridiculous, personally.
And what's the most overrated thing in sports? This is a lesson for all children. What's the most overrated thing in sports?
We know the MacMahon position is the most overrated thing in sports is sportsmanship.
Absolutely.
Well, I will say that the NBA has set a standard that they do not want references to a player's manhood being displayed. So,
I kept the pants on.
I know, but describing what's under the pants.
But he didn't do that.
Anyway, the point is he should have been allowed to celebrate. And then, Victor was great in overtime. I mean, he's had a great year, calendar year, started the season, and obviously was really good in the Olympics again for a France team that had a wild ride through the tournament. Almost didn't make the group stage. Think it's safe to out of the group stage. Think it's safe to say they got a little bit of help from the refs on a 4-point play at the end of a game. And
how tall were those refs?
Probably not 6 feet.
You give it to me in meters.
Yeah, but he's had a heck of a year, and he's my second nominee.
So in the Olympics, he had very good numbers. He averaged 16 and 10. But he was not good in the quarterfinals. He had 12 rebounds, so that was obviously good, and three steals. But he was 2 of 10, and then in the semis against Germany, which was truly the Germans had destroyed the French in the group stage, and the French came back. That was Evan Fournier, as they say over there. We over here we call him Evan Fournier, but over there they call him Yvan Fournier. That was his big moment, but he was only 4-17 in that game. But in the gold medal game, which LeBron compared to a game 7, and I'll take LeBron's word when he compares something to game 7, he's played in a lot of them. He had 26 points and was 11 of 19 shooting and did everything he possibly could to keep the French in that game. And that certainly is a feather in his cap. All right, I am going to nominate Ant Edwards. He's not going to win, but I think he needs to be on the board because he, I think, has a chance to win this someday. We all hope that he wins this someday, I think. He finished 7th, by the way, in MVP voting last year. I didn't realize that he finished that highly. I kind of felt I kind of felt like Ant was a little bit underrated maybe coming into the playoffs, but maybe that was just my perception. But certainly after his playoff run, he got a lot of attention. I mean, I'm going to give his playoff stats because I think that's really where he had his best foot forward in leading the Wolves to the West Finals, including the upset of the Nuggets, and to win a Game 7 on the road against the defending champs.
Yes.
I mean, it's the biggest moment in history of the franchise. It's already on Ant's resume. But he averaged 28 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, a steal and a half, shot 48% overall and 40% on threes. I think he got tired in the West Finals.
Yeah,
MacMahon.
he didn't have it in the West Finals. But boy, how about the sweep over the Suns when he is killing them and talking trash to his idol?
And that was great to watch them every day over the summer with Team USA. In that Sun series, game 1, 33, game 2 only had 15, but game 3, 36, game 4, 40. Then he comes out in that first game in Denver, where they basically stated their intentions right out of the gate. And they won game 1 and game 2, but they come into game 1 and he puts up 43 on 17 and 19 in that game. And then in game 7, he didn't play as well. He was sort of an indication of things to come. He was only 6 of 24. But
he actually, though, was great facilitating. The defense was awesome. Like, it was I don't know if you can have a great 6 of 24 performance, but
they got the win. They won game 7 on the road.
Yeah, if you can have a great one, it's in a game 7 win on the road, sure.
Yeah. Then he goes to the Olympics and he came off the bench. He was, he had a good Olympics. I think he is the future of the program. I think you could see him. I think him and Jayson Tatum are the future of the program. But he averaged 13 points. He did not play well in that game against Serbia. That was one of the reasons the U.S. struggled. He did not have an impact in that game in the semifinals, but he had some really big performances, including the first game against Serbia when he played really, really well. And then this year, it's been a little bit of an up and down start, obviously, for the Wolves. They have been playing a little bit better recently. He has not played his best basketball this year, which is one of the reasons he's not going to win this award. But I do think he had really a year where he announced himself, and so I think he should be recognized throughout that.
Bontemps, any disagreements? I know you've got a lot of them today.
I haven't really had any so far. I would say that certainly Ant's performance early in the year in the playoffs was, you could say Minnesota and Dallas's runs through the playoffs, were probably the 2 most memorable things, along with the Celtics ultimately winning. But again, like even the second half of the year, right? Like Minnesota's been fairly flat to open here.
Yeah.
One thing I'm curious about in 25 is this Ant 11 or 12-3 a game thing going to continue ad nauseum?
All right.
No.
Before we vote, I want to make an honorary nomination. I know he's not going to win. Hey, Bontemps, this is a guy I did discover. LeBron James.
There's a lot of those.
LeBron James. Obviously the Lakers did make it out of the play-in last year. However, at his age 38 to 39 season, he averaged 26 points, 7 plus rebounds, 8 plus assists, shot 54% overall from the field, which I believe he's shot a couple of times better than that in his Heat years, but was the best shooting year he'd had in the last decade. Shot his best 3-point shooting year ever. Played in 71 games. Then he went to the Olympics and won the Olympics MVP, which is the only MVP that he didn't have on his resume because he got the NBA Cup. We can't give him credit for the NBA Cup because it took place in the 2023 calendar year. He averaged 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 9 assists in the Olympics. He had a couple of absolutely brilliant games. In the opening game against Serbia, he had 21, 7, and 9. In the game against France, which was really Steph Curry's game, obviously. Steph will be always remembered that. But just for the point of what happened in that game, he had 14 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists, 2 steals and a block. He also had 5 turnovers, which was one of the reasons why the U.S. let the French back in the game. But he played a tremendous all-around floor game in the final. It was an excellent performance. The voting on that was a little opaque about how that voting actually went down. I thought that Curry might have, because of his semifinals and finals performance, might have earned it. But
I was going to say, I was also going to say before we finished nominations, I think we should nominate Steph Curry because for as well as LeBron played in the Olympics, the thing you remember from the Olympics is Stephen Curry's fourth quarter against Serbia and his shot to end the game against France. And he is the enduring memory, I think, from that Olympic tournament for Team USA and how
without question
they pulled it out of the fire and avoided what would have been, one of the wildest losses ever, losing to that Serbia team in the semifinal. And then they did not. And there was a lot more riding on the line for him too, because he had not won the gold medal yet.
That is absolutely correct.
By the way, the Warriors went undefeated in the playoffs.
By the way, in that Serbia game, that again, actually a bunch of people had their fingerprints on that comeback. Embiid was great down the stretch in that comeback. Yep. Durant made a couple of great plays, including this behind the back crossover play that was just filthy, that basically sealed the game. But in that game, LeBron had a triple-double. I think there had only been one other player to get a triple-double in the Olympics. But in that game, LeBron had 16 points, 12 rebounds, 10 assists, and a steal. I mean, LeBron was the USA's best player start to finish. Steph was the guy who dropped the hammer, put him night, put him to sleep. Absolutely. But LeBron did win the MVP, and in a vacuum, if I had a vote, I would have voted for Steph. But it wasn't like there was an outcry and LeBron didn't deserve it. And by the way, I don't think Steph cared. Steph went into the night not caring.
They were just happy they won the gold medal.
Steph struggled until the medal round, so I thought LeBron...
He was terrible until the medal rounds, but the medal rounds where it matters. You know what I mean? Right. So, but
Steph
LeBron
was the medal rounds MVP if there was such a thing. By the way, the Lakers didn't last long in the playoffs, but LeBron's numbers were insane. The guy, rounding here, averaged 28.
Oh, he did. They did make it out of the play. Steph did make it out of the play. I said a minute ago the Lakers didn't.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
They got 5 games and they were gone. At the hands of the Nuggets, who obviously they just can't beat the Nuggets.
Right.
But LeBron, rounding in that series, averaged 28 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, 2.5 steals, and a block, and shot 57% from the floor, 39 from three-point range. I mean,
pretty good.
He had a pretty damn good series.
Pretty good.
Yeah. And he is so far this year.
Oh, Jackson, for the first time in his life, made a good point. He said Steph the Olympics cojones factor.
Stop being so mean to Jackson today.
Why? I can't pick on the producer, but you can pick on the host. I see.
I didn't pick on anyone.
All right, time for the vote. Bontemps.
This is for me to give my 3 guys in a row. That's what we're doing.
I mean, who do you think should receive the Baller d'Or?
I've been thinking about this since we started the podcast, and I still don't have
I agree. Answer. There's not a clear favorite. I agree.
You could really pick a lot of different people. I really don't know.
Make a damn pick.
I'm gonna think about it longer.
Oh, are you serious?
I
What?
He
don't
wants
really.
he wants to
I
have the
don't have an
tiebreaker vote.
answer.
All
I'm
right.
trying to think of an answer.
All right, MacMahon.
Am I somebody who's afraid to give opinions?
No.
I think that's clear. I'm just trying to come up with an answer. It's a hard one to pick. What are
All
you
right,
going to
MacMahon.
pick? You seem to know, MacMahon.
Yeah, I'm going with Joker. I mean, MVP, straw poll, 2024, early season MVP, bronze medal. Yeah, I'm going with Joker. He wins every award.
Yeah, so we're gonna end the drama here because I'm gonna vote for Jokic too. And the thing is, I think it feels like to win this award, you should have to have won one of the big things. Like you should have to have, and he
Like
did
an
win the
MVP.
NBA MVP. Winning the bronze medal in that Olympics was a great accomplishment for the Serbians, and they were, on the verge of pulling off a huge victory over the Americans. And obviously, as Bontemps was correct, everybody's resume is flawed. It was a very disappointing finish to the Nugget season. They haven't started great this year, but you can't blame any of it on Jokic. He is great. And so I think he's already clinched it. I want to hear Bontemps vote, but
I
believe
don't.
Jokic will win it for the second consecutive year. Another award. I'm sure, Nikola is so excited about winning awards. He's, I'm sure he's going to put this one right on his mantle to celebrate the holiday season.
We'll send him something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm tempted to pick Luka or Victor, but I think
Victor would be spicy. That would be a good
Bontemps. I'm tempted to disagree just for the sake of disagreeing.
No, I mean I think Victor especially getting France to the gold medal game at home when there was a ton of pressure on him, winning rookie of the year and living up to the hype across the board, I think is at least worth winning in a year where there isn't a super strong candidate. But I will pick unanimous and pick Jokic. Because like you said, on the strength of getting that, even though they lost that, probably the single game everybody's going to remember the most from this year is that Serbia USA semifinal. And the only reason that game was that competitive is because, obviously they hit some threes in the first half and Jokic is otherworldly. So I'll go with him.
Of all the awards that I had to vote on, I didn't vote on that many, but out of all the ballots that I cast in 2024, I think the hardest ballot was the Defensive Player of the Year ballot. I voted for Gobert. I don't regret that vote, but it was not an easy decision for me because as I was watching those games down the stretch, Victor was absolutely causing havoc out there defensively on like possession after possession. So if their circumstances were a little bit different, he might have been able to win that award. And
he will set an NBA record for most Defense Player of the Year award.
Hopefully.
I mean, I think I would wager on that.
Hopefully. All right.
He's only got to do that. He's got to win 5 and he's 20. So as long as he's healthy, he's gonna win enough.
So Ben Wallace has 4. Who else? Dwight Howard has 4. There's Gobert have 4.
He won his 4th last year. And that's just Dikembe. I'd have to look at that.
Dikembe might have 4.
I think
Dwight has 3, if I'm not mistaken.
Didn't have Defensive Player of the Year back when Russell was patrolling the paint.
I know he might have won a few.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for listening to the Hoop Collective throughout the year. And I hope everybody has a great Christmas holiday season here. We'll be back later this week. Thank you to our producers, Rafa and Jackson. Thank you to Bontemps and MacMahon. We'll talk to you soon.
Adios, amigos.